Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Let's get it. Okay, director Sam Raimi, who's been making a resurgence as of late. Writer Michael Waldron. EPs Kevin Feige, of course, Victoria Alonso, Eric Hauserman Carroll, Jamie Christopher, Louis Despacito, and Scott Derrickson. The main cast, we've got Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Stephen Strange, Elizabeth Olsen, or as I like to call her, Lizzie Olsen, as Wanda Maximoff slash the Scarlet Witch, Benedict Wong as Wong, and Xochitl Gomez as America Chavez. Okay, before I even get into this, there are going to be spoilers. I said that back in my first video. I only do spoiler reviews, so get ready for that. And yeah, this was a great movie. It was dope. It was dope. And let's get into the reasons why. Okay, the positives. The CGI was good. You know, they fought Shumagora at the beginning, the monster demon squid. All the effects were good, like the zombie Strange, the fight scenes. It was good. The CGI was good, so that was pleasant. The fights were good. You know, you always like to see Doctor Strange let loose because he's always going ham, man. You know, he's good. We saw the fights with the Illuminati, even though they kind of got flossed. But, you know, we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, CGI was good. The fights were good. And the movie just at this point showed that Doctor Strange is pretty much the most powerful, like, individual in the Marvel Universe, the most powerful Marvel character. I guess you could say Scarlet Witch, but in this movie, he had the advantage of being, like, sane, like his mind was together, and, you know, his intellect is just on another tier. So, yeah, it showed that Doctor Strange is, like, he's the top dog, pretty much. Like, Iron Man passed the torch on to him. And I've said that Iron Man, the torch was passed when they were on that spaceship in Infinity War, when they were going to Saturn. And yeah, that it's continued to this day. Doctor Strange is like, he's the number one dude. And what makes him that way is his power, just the ability to conjure up a spell for pretty much anything. Even without the Eye of Agamotto, without the Time Stone, he hasn't lost a step. I mean, like, he's just as powerful. So, you know, he's got anything he can call upon in any given moment, and his intellect. That's what sets him apart from, like, all the other characters. Maybe even Tony Stark to an extent. I know it's, like, blasphemous to even say that, but his intellect and the way he, like, sees his way through each problem, and he's, like, willing to do whatever it takes in that moment to, like, get it done. Not to the point of turning evil, at least R616 Strange, but whatever is available to him, he'll just do it. So, yeah, the movie just continued to show that. Next great thing is the Illuminati. I mentioned them, they got flaws, but man, you want to talk about stand-up, like, hype in the movie theater moments? That was definitely one of them. I mean, man. And this is one of the things, the spoilers, I was already aware, you know, when they did the first trailer, I knew that was Patrick Stewart's voice just from hearing it, and I think they wanted you to know that. So I knew at least Professor X was going to be there. And the little council chairs in that room, I was like, okay, this is probably going to be an Illuminati thing, because I've read the comics. But despite all that, when it happened in the movie, man, I was hyped. I mean, like, yo, you got Professor X in the yellow chair? In the yellow chair. Like, come on. That's straight out the 90s. People ain't ready for that. They have Black Bolt, who's actually one of my favorite Marvel characters. Kind of low-key, but he's so powerful. It's like, if you know who he is, you have to like him. They pulled Black Bolt into a film. They pulled in Jim as freaking Reed Richards. Great choice, by the way. They always do a great job with the casting, so that didn't surprise me at all. But yeah, Reed Richards. Reed Richards. Like a true torch passing from Tony Stark to the next person. You know, OP genius. That was cool. They had Captain Marvel, who was an alternate. The original Carol Danvers, her friend, if she had become Captain Marvel. So that was really cool. And last but not least, Peggy Carter, or Captain Carter. Man, I'm telling y'all right now, that animation or how she looked, I mean, it looked straight out of that Marvel What If thing. Like, the animation was that good that it impersonated the real thing. I mean, like, her looking into that camera, it was like amazing, because anyone who's seen What If, which you should have, and I'll get into that in a second, it looks exactly from it. Like, I was impressed. It was so good. So that was cool to see. So the Illuminati, that was definitely a hype moment. They pulled them in, and that basically served to tie the entire MCU together. Like, literally that moment, or the MCM, Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. as well as tie the movies together with the comics, because now they can bring in anybody. It doesn't matter. But just because of that moment, they can literally bring in anyone, regardless of property or IP. So that was a very, very important stage for the rest of the whole Marvel continuum. And yeah, it was cool. I was definitely hyped. So yeah, it tied into What If, and I've heard a lot of people haven't seen that. That's one of my personal favorite Marvel things. Highly recommend. Like, go out and watch that right now if you haven't seen it. It's dope. They show like what if Ultron had kept the Vision's body, and you see why he wanted to make it, because once he assembles that body, it's a wrap. It's over. I mean, just among the long list of Vision's powers, he can turn intangible, like just fully intangible. What are you gonna do against this thing? Like, what are you gonna do? And that's how it went. So watch What If, great series. And yeah, that Peggy Carter was like a spitting image from that show. So it's like, I don't know if the animation was that good to, catch up to real life, or they brought in, the costume just to look that good against the show. But it was great. And they brought in that Demon Strange, or rather, well, they did the Demon Strange, the Evil Strange from the show, but also the Zombie Strange with the arms, the souls of the damned, fortified Doctor Strange. That looked like it was literally lifted from the panels of What If. Like, it was like precise. So it was just good because they had a lot of plot callbacks, but those visual callbacks just, yeah, I mean, it makes you feel like you're in the universe. So that was good. That was good. Another very good thing. I don't know if someone talked to him, but in this film, they cut the quips, which I greatly appreciated. Like, they still threw in a few quips, but it was more like straightforward speech. Like, how would you really talk? Like, just how would you really say this? And yeah, they dialed it back. I mean, in some films it's warranted, like let's say Guardians of the Galaxy, or something along those lines. Maybe even Thor, since they turned him into a comedian. But like, these Marvel films were just like quip after quip. I'm just like, just say the line. Just say it. So I don't know if someone talked to him or something, but they definitely had a mass reduction in the quips in this film, and I really appreciated that. Like, I could just listen to the plot, like to the story, and be like, okay, this is what's happening. Man, maybe the best thing about the film, and this is like gonna sound kind of strange, but it was really, maybe go underrated, maybe won't, was the trailer mix-up. It was great. You saw the first trailer, and it ended up not revealing the entire plot of the film to you, because like it showed the Evil Strange, and if you had already watched What If, which you should, then you would know that like there is an Evil Strange in the multiverse, and he's powerful. And in What If, he was multiple times more powerful than the Doctor Strange in our universe, for a reason. I mean, it's kind of a spoiler, but I'm gonna let you go watch it. But yeah, he was like way OP. So the trailer lets you think, you're like, okay, if I know about Evil Strange, they're gonna fight him. And they even say the only person who is a match for you is you. So they led you to believe that. The movie completely switched it up. Like, man, the true villain is Wanda. Like, she's the villain of the film. Evil Strange is there, but he's like a mini boss. And in my opinion, he didn't even really have to be there, but that's kind of a side note. But yeah, he was by no means the main villain. And they didn't leak any of that in the trailer. It just really, the movie had its own plot, and when you went in, it was a surprise just for that. I was very happy about that. Because infamously, and maybe where it did get back to them on this, the trailer game was like bombed back when Thor Ragnarok came out. Man, that trailer changed the trailer game, because it like messed the whole movie. It messed the whole movie up. In that Thor Ragnarok trailer, they revealed in the trailer that the Hulk pops out in like that little, or that big like fight tournament in the fight bash, and he shows up, and Thor's like, oh yeah, it's a friend from work, blah blah blah, and they start fighting. But if you watch the movie, there was no precursor to that happening. It could have and should have been a complete surprise. Like, it should have been. Can you imagine being in that theater and like, Thor goes into the ring. No one knows what's happening. He's on Battle World. Like, we don't know what's happening. You have no clue who he's about to fight. If you've read the comics, you think maybe it's Beta Ray Bill. You think maybe it's the Silver Surfer if you've read World War Hulk, like, who's like practically undefeatable, by the way. You have no clue what's about to happen. And then the Hulk comes out, the Hulk, who we hadn't seen on screen in like 2 years because he got flown off into the great beyond at the end of Avengers 2. So, like, we literally didn't know where he was as the audience, like in real life. And so, if he had just shown up there on screen with no foreshadowing, just like, oh, I'm the Hulk, man, I probably would have had to like walk out the theater, like screaming. It was, to say that was a missed opportunity is a mass understatement. Like, and I think word got back to him at some point because that was, I'm getting like a little choked up because it was bizarre for them to put that in that trailer. So since that moment, when did Thor Ragnarok come out? 2013, 2015? Since that moment, for a long time after that, I didn't watch trailers at all because I was like, I'm not paying to have this movie ruined for me. You know, that's not why I'm going to see the movie. But then I softened up over time, and now, but to this day, I only watch the first trailer of any release because they start putting too much stuff in the trailers after that. You know, I'm not trying to ruin the movie, but the roots of that are bonded with that Thor Ragnarok moment. Cause like, why did that have to happen? Anyways, it started with Shang-Chi where they switched it up and they were like, you know, it's his dad. His dad was like, I'll let you live for 10 years, you know, but his dad turned out to be the villain. Great mix up with the trailer. This movie had another great trailer mix up. They didn't give you the plot in the trailer, and in fact, reversed it. So that was great. That might have been the best part about the film, is that they didn't, you know, spoil it in the trailers. So that was good. Whew. Okay. Room for improvement. All right. Let's get this show on the road. Okay. So great film, like I said. But number one, the Marvel formula is starting to show itself a little bit. And I hate to say that because, again, I've been reading comics since I was this tall. I'm going to keep reading comics even if I stopped watching these films, you know, or the TV shows. I just Wikipedia late nights, like, what are these characters' powers and abilities? That's just a part of who I am. So, I mean, I'm never going to turn my back on comics, but knock on something. But the Marvel formula itself is starting to show itself a little bit. You know, they meet up, have a little discussion, go out and fight somebody. Yeah. I mean, none of these movies are bad, and I've said that before. None of these movies are bad. This movie was great. But, like, you know, starting a little formulaic. The last movie that didn't really have a formula was No Way Home. That was like, which is, by the way, this might be kind of controversial, but that's my number one favorite Marvel film. I think that's the best Marvel film. It was Endgame, obviously, for a long time, but now it's Spider-Man. But, like, that wasn't really formulaic. It was good, like, a lot of unexpected moments. I mean, they brought in freaking Doc Ock from another universe, Green Goblin, like, it was good. It was just, even the way they went about it was good. But the formula kind of started showing us up with Shang-Chi, even though that also broke the trailer formula. But anyways, so yeah, this movie was good, but it's like, okay, you know, I see what's going on here. There used to be like some soul in these films, like soul, you know what I mean? Like, there was like a feeling to them. Iron Man 1, the whole movie. I mean, that started the franchise, so obviously, or technically it was Hulk 2, but you get the point. That whole movie had soul. Like when he got off the plane, he's in the sling, he's like, I need an American cheeseburger, like bites the burger. Like, those moments were just like, it was like, there was no quips. It was just like, it was like a part of the film. It was just good. And even like Thor, when Kat Dennison, I believe that's her name, she was like, you know, they called it Mjolnir. She was like Mew Mew. Like, that's one of the best moments still in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to date. Like, that was so funny. And I'm like, was that an ad lib? It was just great. Mew Mew. Like, moments like that. You know, these movies are very straightforward. Everything kind of happens, but those old school movies had like soul, man. It was just something about them. So I'm sure they could resurrect it if they wanted to, but yeah, it was, these movies are just a little different. Also, the Disney influence in and of itself is starting to get a bit intense. I mean, okay, when Disney acquired Marvel back in 2009, I believe, that's what everyone's concern was. That's what my concern was. I learned to kind of put my concerns to the side because these movies started turning out fine. What actually made me start putting my concerns to the side finally was Heath Ledger as Joker, because I mean everyone was like, what? But we know that might be one of the greatest performances in history. At any rate, but even back with Disney, I was like, we'll see, how much Disney makes it into these films. But lo and behold, man, they kept making movies, and the Disney influence was very minimal. It was like, okay, they're still letting Marvel do their thing. It was good. It didn't seem to be really affecting like the quality, the comic quality of the films. But then we get to, the future or the present, and like the scene with the music notes, Doctor Strange versus Evil Strange, that was a bit much. It wasn't bad, but like that was straight out of Fantasia. Like that was some actual Disney stuff, like for kids. So I'm in the theater like, okay, this wouldn't have been an Iron Man. Like this wouldn't be an Avengers. Like how did that find this way into this film? So that's a little Disney action working. So, you want the movies to stay Marvel, like comics, which are obviously comics are quote unquote for kids, but there's a lot of fighting in comics, a lot of action, a lot of themes. So you want it to follow that train. So yeah, we'll see how they do, but the Disney elements are starting to get a little intense. But maybe the number one thing that's the room for improvement in these films is that they're starting to lack a sense of momentum. And like I said, they're all still good, but I've actually heard Kevin Feige say there will be no more Avengers films. Like why? Like, okay, the Calabasas Flex, the self-improvement advice column is making its way into this. If you become successful or whatever that is, and you forget what it is that made you successful, you're going to be doomed to like fall on some hard times. I'm gonna say it again. If you forget or if you stop doing what it took you to become successful, you're gonna be in trouble. So I've heard him say that. And like in these movies, I'm like, maybe that's what's going on, because they all still tie together. I mean, Doctor Strange, in the Multiverse of Madness, picks up directly, and I mean directly after WandaVision. Like, it's the next major plot point after WandaVision. He goes to visit her at that little country house. So I don't know if it's a few months after WandaVision, maybe a year, but it's like the next major plot point after WandaVision is this film. So they all still tie together, literally, with the multiverse now. They all still, share all the same elements, but that's like lateral. Forward would be the progression of momentum that made those original films what they were. With every film, it was like, man, like, what's about to happen? What's about to happen? It was moving us closer and closer to Thanos. The construction of the Avengers. Each movie, like, added a different Avenger. Like, it was literally moving forward. And I mean, they would put, 1-2 years in between these films. So, like, for a year of your actual life, you're like, what's going to happen? Like, you're excited to see the next thing because it's moving forward. That's the reason why. I mean, and those movies are moments out of my life. You know what I'm saying? They're moments out of all of our lives. So there's that emotional weight with it. But if they really did take out the Avengers element or even the team up element, I don't know, like that would stop the MCU from being, what it is, the quote unquote MCU. Like that would kind of take away the main DNA element. So I hope they don't do that. I don't know if Ken Feige will ever see this. That'd be cool. Yo, maybe not even the Avengers, but there's got to be some sort of team up. Actually, no, the Avengers. The Avengers Part 2. Because that forward momentum, each movie adding another link to the chain that was moving in a certain direction, was what made that's what set the MCU movies apart from any other type of franchise. That was it. So if they abandon that element, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'll keep watching the films. If they ever make like an actual, like not good one, I don't know, who knows if that can happen, then we'll take it from there. But yeah, man, that was the element. That was what made these films what they were. So hopefully that's not true and they, can add in some sort of team up element, some sort of like master villain, because yeah, man, that's why these things became so big. So, we'll see. Moving on to plot holes. This movie didn't really have any. It didn't really have any, unlike Endgame, which was literally one of my favorite. I mean, until Spider-Man, it was, in my opinion, the best Marvel film. despite some extreme plot holes. We'll say that. We'll say that. But I mean, it's still good. The CGI, the action, like, bro, the tears, the crying at the end of Endgame. I've only seen the full ending of Endgame once, despite having seen like most of the movie like somewhere between 10 or 20 times. But when it gets to that ending where Iron Man's like about to like die, I turn it off every single time because I don't want to experience that again. I was in that theater, man, trying to like cry like I was a child, a kid. Wasn't like, oh, this is sad. No, I mean like trying to stop myself from bawling. You know what I mean? Like, this is facts. So yeah, I'm not trying to experience that again. But yeah, best Marvel film up until Spider-Man, even though it had a lot of plot holes. But this movie really didn't have any. The only one, and it actually is pretty big, was when they were talking to Zochito at the beginning. Doctor Strange is like, yeah, we have experience with the multiverse because of this Spider-Man incident. So it was like, I mean, in the theater, I was like, did anyone else hear that? Like, what are you talking about? The spell that made the Spider-Man movie what it was, and eventually, you know, ended the film, was making everyone forget Spider-Man, including Doctor Strange, who was like, even me, like, you know, there are people that love you. So there was nothing at the end of that film to indicate that any part of the spell didn't go right, or, you know, Doctor Strange still knew who he was, or anyone still knew who he was. So when he said in plain English, yeah, we had a thing with Spider-Man, I was like, what? Did the writers of this movie watch the previous movie? Like, what did he just say? I mean, and I thought they were going to play it off by them having it be a different universe. Like, okay, I mean, there's a multiverse, so it's possible. He could went through the exact same steps, the exact same Tom Holland, like, everything happens and threw the spell down, but for whatever reason, he just remembers. Fine, it's the multiverse. There will be different elements in every single iteration. I get it. But no, they doubled down, and freaking Rachel McAdams was like, yeah, we named your universe the 616. So they definitely stated the universe that we're acquainted with as the main Marvel universe. And like the events that you see happen in this one, those are the ones that happened in all the previous movies. So I was like, how and or why is that even possible? They didn't address it. They were just like, yeah, man, I actually just still know who Spider-Man is. Okay. But it's not a movie-breaking plot hole, strangely enough. It's not, because they didn't really give any indication that anyone else knew. Maybe Wong, I think, in their conversation, but it didn't break the film, it didn't break the MCU. It was just weird. I was like, all right, that's cool. Okay, so moving on to Best Actors. I mean, number one was easily Benedict Cumberbatch. He was the best actor in the film, in the whole thing. Yeah, he moved between smooth, Player Strange in the suit, Doctor Strange in the garb, Evil Strange with the third eye, Zombie Strange with the arms. Every element he easily moved between. Good, bad, you know, determined, sad, whatever. He was the best actor in the film. Pleasure to watch. Number two would probably be Benedict Wong as Wong. Wong was great. He has that stoic delivery. I'm glad they didn't make him as unhinged as he was in Shang-Chi. I don't know. I still to this day don't know what that was about. The man's fighting in like an underground ring, drinking like. That was so weird. Like, what was that? But yeah, they brought him back to like normal Wong. And yeah, but he's just a great actor. Like, good emotional tone, just good delivery. Zochitl as America Chavez, she did really good. The only thing was like you could see the difference that like age and experience makes when it comes to acting. When you put her against the quote unquote older, more experienced actors, you can see the difference that it makes. It's like, okay, you know, there's more going on here. But that being said, she did good. She was great. She didn't weigh the film down. She didn't seem too crazy or anything. She did a great job as an actress in that film. But that being said, all the actors did good, and you can count on Marvel films for that. That's one of the things you can take to the bank on Marvel films. The acting is going to be top quality. Rachel McAdams was good. All the Illuminati was good. Jim gave that very like kind of understated tone as Reed Richards. Patrick Stewart. I mean, come on. Captain Carter, Captain Marvel. Lizzie Olsen? She was good. You can count on the acting in a Marvel film to be solid, and this one was good. Okay, now, the rating. the final key, the rating. How does this film do? 8 out of 10 zombie strangers fortified with the souls of the damned. This movie gets an 8 out of 10. It was great. There was nothing really wrong with it. Nothing. It tied in a lot of elements. Like I said, this film is the linchpin now of the MCM, the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. The acting was great. Because of this film, now they can bring in literally any character from the comics that they want to. Literally any character. So, I mean, just an overall great film. The action was good. The fighting. You got to see Doctor Strange be OP as usual. Great film. Great film. Like I said, the only takeaways were that, or the only marks against it were that the Marvel formula is starting to show itself a little bit. A little formulaic. The Disney influence, especially with like the music notes and stuff, it's getting a little heavy. And it's lacking that momentum that made the original Avengers films so great. That's the formula. That's the sauce. Like, that has to be in there for these, you know, for the films to be what they were, for the universe to be what it was. It's a great movie. All these movies are good, but like that element, that stitching that made them go forward, that was the MCU. So hopefully we haven't seen the last of that, but we'll see. Okay, so next up we have Obi-Wan, not Marvel, but Star Wars, you get the point. Miss Marvel, that's coming up. And the next big release is Thor. So be on the lookout for those reviews. I'm going to do those. Yeah. Like, subscribe, stay powerful, and keep flexing.